So what I'm going to do it, Harshal, you might have to enable the screen sharing for me.
Yep.
Okay. So what I wanted to cover today, you guys are able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it, Dilip.
Do you see the deck?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted to do it is to talk about the last key topic that a business analyst need to think about it as they're collecting the data and collecting the information about the various activities from the different users. And that aspect is known as the data modeling. Okay. So what is a data model, right? So data model is nothing but a technique to essentially capture the information that the users are utilizing it as part of their system or processes and identifying a relationship between all of those information. So the key purpose of whenever you're trying to do a data specification is to make sure that you are able to successfully execute the processes because all the information flows from one part of the process to the other part of process. So in the PHN nursing, right, we started looking into 3 different processes. One is registration, the other one is patient encounter, and the billing. If you look at it, right, there is information flowing through all of those processes as go through it, and mainly they are billing, right? The customers, the patients. So if you think about it, right, without having the patient registered and knowing what treatment are provided, you can't bill them. But there is a relationship between the treatment and the bills. But even before that, there is a relationship between the treatment and a patient. And then when I take it to the registration, there is a relationship between the patient and the programs that they're approved to be treated. So essentially, data model, it's nothing but it identifies what is the information and how they're related and how the processes are dependent on that. Okay, it's a diagram that shows what are the key data elements and how they are dependent or related to each other. Okay. For every time you identify the information that flows it, whether it's in a context diagram or a process diagram, you will have some sort of data associated with it. A lot of times you will hear the different words. Sometimes you will say, hey, there is an entity relationship diagram or data dictionary or a data structure or an object model. They all are one and same. There are different forms of representing the data model. Okay, so why bother doing data modeling? As I talked about, right? All of the processes are essentially nothing but a steps that manipulates the data. Data is the key aspects when you look into any intellectual property of any systems or any corporation that we do today. Data is the key element. So if I'm doing it a custom creations, right? All of the customers and data are of the most value for that particular corporation. If you go into the banks, right? All of the customers and the products that those customers are consuming is the key intellectual property. And all of the data that they have, it essentially, there has to be some business processes that manipulates it and generates the value both for a customer and for the corporations. So when you think about data, right, you can define data as a physical data specs, right? So you identify, hey, when I talk about customers, what all it means, right? As a customer name, customer ID, maybe date since you are a customer, maybe your shipping address, maybe your billing address, maybe your billing information. So those are like, it's kind of customer aspects that you do it. And another aspect is when you bring that down into the system, it becomes a database design. So when you talk about processes, They are originally designed as manual procedures, which essentially interact with the physical data specs. But when you convert that into a systems and the systems are utilizing those processes, then essentially those system specs interact with the database, which is the design. And both the data and process together forms your solution. Okay, so let's look at the quick data model component. So there are 3 key things that you need to model when you're doing a business analysis for your data model. Okay, the first one is entity. Entity is something that you're trying to replicate as a real world object. Okay, so in the example that we're doing in a customer creation, the customer becomes an entity. The product, which is a real world thing, becomes an entity. In addition to those real world objects, you can also identify the interaction between those real world entity as a entity itself. Okay, so for example, when you talk about a sale, right? A customer makes a purchase, that becomes a sale item, right? That particular sales or order essentially becomes also another entity. Okay, and those relationship essentially identifies how they are dependent on each other and what is the cardinality. Now, cardinality is something that you need to think about. It is, what is the, I would say, is the mathematical model that you used it between those two real relationships. So for example, you can have a customer can make many purchases, right? So if I go on the Amazon, I can do tons of orders, right? But when you think about it, a given order just belongs only to me. It's not going to be shared by multiple customers, right? But when you think about a product, right, the book that I'm buying from Amazon, that book could also be bought by multiple customers, right? So you're going to have a relationship between the entity as one to many, right? In my case, I'm a customer buying many orders, right? That's one to many relationship, right? And the book is bought through many purchases or many customers. That's again one to many. So those becomes your data model component. In a moment, we'll talk about what are the types of cardinality you can have between the two entities. Okay. And the last part of data model component that you need to think about is the attribute. Attribute is a unique piece of information that is tied for an entity. For example, right, if I'm a customer, the thing which is tied to me as an attribute is my name, right? My birth date, right? So you have to think about it. If my name is the lowest piece, I cannot break it down. It's an atomic piece. My birth date, when I consider it, is also an atomic piece. Okay. So again, as we talk through it, right? A entity is a real world or event between two entities. Right? So for example, right? Even in the PHN world, right? You may have a patient, right? And you may have a service provider, like it's a doctor's office, right? If you think about those two are unique entities. And the relationship between that, a patient visit could also be an entity, right? Because it's a relationship between the patient and the doctor's office. So relationship are, as we talked about, right? It tells you how the entities depend on each other or interact with each other. Okay. And a lot of times you will hear this crow's foot or cardinality in the diagram, right? So if you have a line drawn between the two entity with a 0 at the bottom, it just says that, hey, the cardinality between those items is 0 to 1. Okay. So for example, if I have a phone number as an entities, all right, and I may have a customer as another entity, I may or may not have a work number, right? I may just have only a home number and a mobile number, right? In that case, the work number becomes 0 to 1. And if the cardinality is 1 to 1, then you will see a line with just an cross mark at the bottom, kind of identified as that. Similarly, you can have a 0 to 1 or more, right? In that case, you will have a crowfoot with a 0 at the top. If you do 1 or more, then you will have essentially a crowfoot with a slash going horizontally. And then sometimes you have more than one, so you will just see it a crowfoot. Okay. And then again, the atomic piece that we talked about could be is when you think about the customer, right? It's a name, the customer number. Those are unique to that particular customer, and it's individual an element that provides some information about that customer. Same thing goes with the product, right? You may have a product name, a product ID, and a price associated with it. Okay. And then when you consider a sale, which is a relationship entity between the two entities, customer and product, you may just say, hey, which date the sale occurred, between what customer and what product they purchase. Okay. Now, another concept that you're going to see it when you do a data model is something known as a primary key and a foreign key. Why this thing is. Make sure that's more visible to all of you. Okay. All right. So the other concept that it is called a primary key. If you think about primary key, it's nothing but a unique way to identify a given object. Okay. It's essentially a piece of attribute within that object that holds a little bit different significance than the rest of the entity. Okay. They have to follow certain rules, right? So for example, whenever you identify certain attribute as a primary key, what you have to guarantee that attribute does not repeat across all the instances of that particular object. Okay. So for example, when you think about a person, right? Let's say I'm a patient and I'm going it. One of the information that they try to capture is a social security number. Okay. Now, can I have two people have the same social security number in US?
No.
Right. So that means it's a unique, and can it be representing it just to one and only one person, right? So that if you're like it's modeling a customer and providing its social security number, that becomes a primary key because it's guaranteed that nobody else is going to have the same. So if I kind of want to identify a person, and if I use social security number, I can guarantee that will always be unique. It'll result to one and only one person. So that's an example of primary key. A lot of times when you look into the systems, right, they will have a unique identification key for every customers. Okay. So if I'm a patient and I'm going to doctor's place and they have my records, they will have an identification number that belongs to only me in that office as a patient. Okay. So it is a attribute that never repeats within an entity. Another aspect is that you can never change it. So it's not only just a unique, but it's a non-updatable attribute, okay? That essentially enables you to identify uniquely. Okay, so let's look at an example that we have it here, right? So when you look at the customer, if I try to identify customer name as primary key, will that work? Can I have a customer name always unique? In other words, can I have another customer with the name Fred Blogs into the system?
Yes.
Right? So since it can be repeated, probably I'm not going to be able to utilize name as a primary key. Okay. What about the customer number?
It should be one. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
It's probably you're going to have every customer is going to have a unique number, no matter what their name is. If there are two Bob Smith or two Fred Blogs in the systems, each one is still going to have a unique number. So in this scenario, right, I would put customer number as a primary key because I can guarantee that it's not going to repeatable. Second thing is once it's assigned, that number will never be updated. So those are the two characteristics that I need to think about it. What about the product at the bottom on this table? Right, so we talked about a customer has a number as the unique key. Is that the same scenario for the product?
People can buy, like, I mean, more people can buy the same thing. So no.
Well, when you're
I mean,
looking at
any product
the table,
number, then yes, maybe a
right.
different, yeah.
So you think about it, right? That for every entity, that's what you think about, right? So I can have two, let's say, RCA cable as a product. I can have two items of the same price.
But
so I can't use the
number
price.
is different.
I can't use the name. The only thing is I can have is a product number, which can be unique for a given product. Now, can that product be purchased by many people? Yes, but everybody will have that 101 as the purchase items, so that comes in sale, right? So I can have customer 10 perform a 101 and 452 as a purchase item. I can have same thing with customer 67. So when I look at the entity, which is formed from the combination or relationship of two entities, the primary keys are always now think of it a little bit different. It have probably, sometimes it could be a composite key, which becomes a primary key. So for example, in this sale, I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have a customer number and a product number as a composite key. Now, is that sufficient? Can I go and purchase the same item twice?
Yes.
That's probability, right? So then I need to think about it. Do I have to use something else? So a lot of times you will have an order number that is generated as part of the sale, right? To create the uniqueness of that order, because I know, hey, once I put the order number, irrespective of whether it's the same customer buying same thing again and again, every time their order number will be different. Or sometimes you can use it a combination of customer number, product number, and a date. But then the more the number of elements that you added to create a composite key, the complex and the slow the performance becomes. So typically they try to like generate, hey, let me just create a sale ID. So that becomes a unique ID. Okay. So then you need to think about, once you do the primary key, is what is the relationship, right? So in this case, I will have a sale item is purchased by a customer, right? And a product is purchased via sale. Okay, so the way I kind of think about it here, right? So there's sale will have one and only one product, but a given product can belong to 0 or more sales, right? So when you read it, you say, look at it from a product, and then you go to the elements where the relationship is going. And obviously there's all the relationship are bidirectional, right? So you have sale belongs to one product, and or sale is for one product, and a product could be purchased by 0 or more sales. Same thing, a sale belongs to only one customer, but a customer can have 0 or more sales. Okay.
I think it's reverse, Dilip.
Oh,
Looks
yeah.
like, yeah. The relationship is
the relationship is
yeah.
different way. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what are the things that you need to think about when you do the data model, right? There are 5 aspects when you're trying to do a data model that you should avoid it. Okay. So the first thing is don't repeat an attribute in an entity, right? So if I have a customer or a patient, right? And then they say, hey, as part of that patient, when I'm capturing the family information, we may have it, hey, they have multiple kids. So you should not try to do it first child name, second child name, third child name. Problem with that is you don't know how many kids they will have it. So you can't build a database which says, hey, I do only 4. What if somebody has 5 kids in the family, right? So you have to constantly worry about putting so many things, and half of the times, none of the information will be populated because not necessarily everybody's going to have a 4 child, right? In a family, they may have 1 or 2 kids only. Same thing with the phone numbers, right? So you can't have a multiple entities when you're trying to do it, is that, hey, they have a primary number, they have secondary number, they have work number, a home number, a phone cell number. You cannot keep repeating those. So you may have to, like, it's defined the relationship between a customer may have 1 or more child, or a customer may have 1 or more phone numbers. Okay. Also, the other aspects when you're going to do data model is don't add an entity in an object when they do not depend on our primary key. So in the previous example, right, when we put the customer, you don't try to put the order date into the customer entity. Reason why? Because the order does not belong to a customer, right? I'm sorry. A customer can have multiple order. So order date, when you try to put in customer entity, does not belong there because it's not dependent on a customer ID just for one instance. There are multiple instances for which it will be dependent. Okay. Another rule that you try to do it is always avoid a many-to-many relationship between entity. Okay. And the way that you avoid it is by whenever you see it, there is a many-to-many relationship, then you essentially introduce a relationship entity in between those. So in our example, right, a product can be ordered by many customers, and a customer can order many products. The way we broke it down is by having a sale in between the customer and products. Okay. The other aspects when you're trying to do an entity, usually avoid a one-to-one relationship, because whenever you try to do a one-to-one, the question you ask it is why they don't belong into the same entity. If there is always a one-to-one relationship. Now, there may be some special case where you may have to think it a little bit differently. And the last thing is you should never have a circular relationship between entity. So in other words, you can't have a customer dependent on the product and a product dependent on the customer. Whenever you try to do that, essentially when you're trying to traverse through it, you can end up in infinite loops whenever you're trying to identify a specific thread of the relationship. Okay. So how do you go ahead and build a data model? So there are 6 steps that you need to think about it, right? First thing, you identify what are my candidate entities. Okay, so in a custom creations, right? We may have plenty of candidate entities here, right? We may have a customer, we may have a product, we may have a vendor. All those becomes a candidate entities. But once you identify all those candidate entities, you need to identify what is the key thing around which most of the activities in the system revolves. Okay, so in case of a customer creation or custom creation example that we talked about, everything revolves around a customer. Right? Once you define the customer as a central entity, you need to start identifying what is the primary key for that particular entity. Okay. Once you do that, then you focus on the second entity and says, what is the relationship between this and the central entity that you identify? You need to understand whether it's going to be in the scope for the purpose of the process or not. So for example, when we did the billing process for the PHN nursing system, right? There is going to be a billing department at the physician or provider's office. And we talked through it and says, yeah, they are kind of like it's play overall role, but they are not part of the PHN systems. So they become an out of scope. So you don't try to model the billing entity at the physician's office as part of your entity. Okay. Once you define the entity and its primary key, right? And you identify the relationship between that entity and the other entity, you start identifying what are the other attributes you needed for that entity. What is the description between the relationship and the cardinality between that? And then you validate that with your end user and says, hey, for example, you talk about, hey, can a customer in a custom creation world can order many items? And then based on the process diagram that we talked about, Harshal said yes, right? So you will have a customer entity and you will have an order entity, right? And then you can have a one-to-many relationship between them. A customer can have 0 or more orders. Then you look into it and this says, okay, now that I have an order as an entity, order is for given items. And in our case, we said, hey, I can order multiple items in a given order, right? So now my order is going to have a relationship that order contains 1 or more item. Because what happens if the order has 0 items? It's not an order, right? Because there's nothing to sell or nothing to customize. So that's kind of discussion you will have it. You validate that with your business user and says, is my understanding right? And then you go back and continue to review and refine. So you keep going through that process for every entity that you identify and the relationship between them. And that essentially becomes your data model diagram. Okay. Any questions? All right. So that's the topic. So when you start defining your stories, right? One of the things you need to start identifying it is, hey, what are the data elements or what are the entities that are impacted in this particular process? And what is the relationship between them? Okay. So as you flow through it, then you start identifying information. So in case of a customer, right? So when you think about a login process or login story, right? What are you going to have in terms of entity? you have a user ID and a password, right? So you need to make sure that whenever a user comes or whenever you define a user in the system, they have at least a user ID and a password, and that are related to that particular story. Now, as you go through it, the other stories, you keep enriching that particular entity and adding additional attributes and elements. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So, Harshal, do we want to like it switch back to the use case that they have created, have them review with us, and then enrich with the entity information for those use cases?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Yeah, certainly. Yep. So you guys do have a patient, what is that, medical application, right? So that is the exercise that we like you guys to do it a little bit later. Okay. Basically going through that and create a data model based on the patient medical application form that you have.
Yeah.
And I think that will help you for the screens as well, and give you some idea whether you will have one record for insurance, right? Or there could be multiple, and how do you handle that on the screens afterwards as well. So so that's the exercise they have, Dilip, that they need to work through.
I was gonna try to give me a second. I think I'm gonna try to pull. The PDF for...
Take a look at it quickly, 20 minutes, and get some idea on that, or we can work through in the class. We can do that as well. Well, once they have some time to look at the exercise.
I'm sorry, Harshal, I think I missed the first part. What do you want? What steps we want to do it now?
I was just thinking, so that's a homework exercise, right? Generally, we give it to them.
Yeah, I did the initial assessment one we discussed Thursday. That was not medical form. Pooja did that story on
Okay.
the first one. I did that initial clinical assessment.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did the initial
Yeah,
clinical
you
assessment, right?
told me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work on those two stories, and
Right.
Cynthia, I forgot what she did. That adding part, I think she did that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Pooja is not here. I'm not sure whether she's going to join today or not. Okay. So how about we let you guys work through this exercise here then? Because so what homework you guys completed? Did you guys revise the homework that we
Yeah,
talked about?
I did that two stories, which
Okay.
one was for adding the demographic, and then you told me that how, like, is this the very first screen, because that was the initial assessment form.
Okay.
So I'll try to link up with the first screen, right? That
Okay.
Dilip told me. And then second one was the medical mental history. There I try to add, I use
Sure.
that three things: add, search, and then add it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Cynthia and Oliver?
I did the stories.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All right.
the mapping thing and business rule and
Okay.
the exceptions.
All right. Okay. So Dilip, I think we can review what they have, and
Yeah,
we
that's what I
can.
was thinking.
Yeah.
Let's start with the review of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think Pooja has other screen. Oliver, are you working through any module or any stories on your end?
Not yet. I haven't worked. So this is the same thing that Cynthia did. That we're all
Okay.
working together because of the class. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want me to share it, I have to test my my link to you plus the password so that you can share it.
Yeah, go ahead. Share that, Cynthia. Well, meanwhile, Geeta, if you want to pull up yours.
Okay.
So Cynthia, send me the username password in the chat, and after Geeta's stuff is done, we will go through yours. Yeah, I mean, I think we are almost at the tail end. So, I mean, there won't be now. This one was the last topic, so there is no further topics that we want to cover. But everything is depends on how much time you put in now between now today, and if we don't have enough today, then we might regroup tomorrow to just review the items or get you guys some time to work as a group and just produce something. From something from scratch. Okay, so and that's something we need to see. Okay, but I think you guys need to spend time on this one to get more exercise.
For data modeling, you're talking about, or the previous one for the yesterday one? I mean,
No,
the last
the screens layouts and other things, because that's
user
kind of like a
stories,
yeah.
mockup and all.
Stories are
Okay.
important. I mean, data model is also important, but
It
that feeds into
data
your stories.
modeling, it's
Yeah.
looking little harder. I don't know why.
Right. No, that's something we can work through as a we can show you as well. Maybe we can, Dilip, let us do one thing.
Mhm.
Maybe we can do one medical application form, and we can give them the patient assessment as an exercise then. Or we pick up one or two few things from medical application form and get it done here for the data model, so that they
Okay.
have better understanding. And then they can work through the screens afterward as a team.
Okay.
From there on. So
Right. Do you want to then drive it and share the
yeah,
screen
I'll
and then
just
walk
drive
them
it.
through
Yep.
the
Yeah,
pull up the forms, and then we can just go through it.
yeah. I think let's just do that. Okay, so let me pull up. Go ahead and share my screen here. Let me find the form and other things first.
Right. So there are two forms, right, Herschel? What we can do it is the medical application
Right.
form.
Yeah.
Right, which has all of the demographic, insurance information, etc.
Yep.
We can do that, and then they can just go do the stories for which they have done it. The other document form, the 10-page form, they can utilize that to build that one.
Yep.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Okay. And then what I would like it, everybody, as Herschel is kind of drawing through that particular data model, go back, look at the steps that we just talked about, the data modeling, and see it how he follows up in those steps and those processes to create the data model. All right.
Right. So for data modeling exercise, right? Yeah,
Herschel,
yeah.
Can we make it a little bit more interactive, right? So as you go
Yeah.
through it, let's see it. Let's have the class identify what entity they think it based on the form that will be there.
Yeah. So I think you all have seen it, right? So let me just I'm just gonna scroll through here. Okay. And entity is nothing but a grouping of information. Okay. How you want to group it, right? Customer, right? Customer has a bunch of attributes: name, address, phone number, and all those things. Similarly, looking at these forms, you need to come up with the entities and the relationship. Okay. So I'm just gonna scroll down, and you can jot down the entities, what type of grouping of information that you see. right? So there are only few things here. So can anybody tell me what is the main who is the information, whose information we are collecting here,
Patient.
right? So that's a patient. So I'm gonna flip back to my drawing board and I'm gonna draw one entity here. Okay, that is called patient. Okay, all right. Then I'm gonna flip back to the medical form. Now patient has what? Let's talk about that first. So patient has all this information that belongs to the patient. Is that correct? From 1 to 19.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Right? Kind of like they belong to the patient. That's the patient's information. Now, if I am going down the form here, now I find another grouping of information. Okay, and you guys recognize that here?
These are insurance information again for the patient.
Again, it's a insurance information, but it's for the patient, right?
Yes.
But I'm just gonna put it here, insurance. Okay. All right. So that's the second entity that we identified. Now, if we scroll down a little bit further,
so
what is it?
Harshal, if I may go back a little bit to the previous one, right?
Sure.
So when we define the patient, is everything in that particular block, which is 1 through 19, actually all of the patient itself, or do you see any other entity there?
Parents.
Right.
Last
So
name, yeah.
the guardian, right? So parent or guardian is another entity, and then there is some information which is around them, right? Because when you look at it, the social security number, they have it belongs to the parent or legal guardian, does not belong only to the kid. So there is a repeated entity, right? So when I look at it from information number 10 through 14, that's essentially legal guardian or parent information.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say legal guardian here, whether it could be parent or could be anybody else.
Somebody else, right?
Yeah. Okay. So that's the third entity that we identified. Now, if I flip back here, so we have insurance, and insurance had multiple insurances, but again, that's part of the insurance.
Right.
Here.
So the difference there, right? If you guys look into it, right, there is a pattern which is repeating on the insurance, but they are nothing but a different types of insurance.
Right. Right. Yep. Okay. Then you have number 26, where you have managing physician service coordinator's name, right? So you want to identify that on here as a different entity. Okay, so managing physician. Okay, so that you have to repeat this process. Okay, that's all data. I mean, data model is about. Okay, now as a BA, you are not going to create the database and go deep dive, but you need to identify some type of relationships, high-level relationships, and work through it. Okay.
So managing physician is also an entity.
Physician
yeah,
is, yes. Because
okay, physician.
Right, because when you look at it, right, all of those data, address, city, does it belong to physician, right?
Right.
Doesn't belong to the patient.
Right.
So
Now,
28 through 26 through 29 is a physician stuff.
Right. Now, primary diagnosis information here
is for patient.
It is for patient, right? So
Right.
you can classify as a different piece
Entity.
of information.
Right.
Entity.
So diagnosis will be an entity.
Okay.
You repeat the same thing for the others. Now,
right.
Let's look at the relationship, right? So let's say we identify this 5 entities. What is the relationship between each one of them? Let's follow the process, right? Where we said we'll pick the central entity, which in this case, everything is revolving around patient. So patient is our central entity. right? And we can just say, hey, patient has a social security number, so we can have that as a primary key for patient, right? And then we can say, it's okay, now let's look at it. What is the relationship between patient and guardian? So what do you guys think? Based on the form that you have it, what is the relationship?
Because patient is a child and it's their family, they are dealing with the nurses and every stuff.
Right.
I mean, step by step. Yeah.
But what is the relationship? Remember the cardinality we talked about, which is 1 to 1, 0 to 1, 1 to many, 0 to many, many to many. Which one of those things are there?
So this is 1 to 1. Okay. 1 to 1. This is a 1 to many. Okay. This is many to many. This relationship. And this one is again
1 to many.
many, but 1 to 1 or many. Okay. This is 1 to 0 or many. This is that's a slight difference there. But again, 1 to many, that's what you can classify it as. Okay. So between patient and diagnosis, or how about physician, right? Or Dilip, you said the legal guardian.
Yeah, let's start with the
Yeah.
legal guardian,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what do you think, you guys? Like, it's out of the relationship that Herschel has laid it out. Is patient going to have a 1-to-1 for legal guardian? Let's talk through it. Let's look at the form. Okay. The form has space for 2 legal guardians. What does that mean? Can patient have their father as a legal guardian? Can they have their mother
Yes.
as a legal guardian?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So we know that the relationship is between patient and legal is at least there's more than one legal guardian for every patient. Potentially, there's going to be more than one, right? Now, can it be 0?
So this sign which just you create that is for many before 0.
Right. The one that Herschel created, right? So whenever it's Crowfoot, that's more than one, which is many, right? Now, think about it, right? I may not have any parents who is taking my responsibility, right? So a lot of times you may have unfortunate kids who are orphan, right? So you may not have any legal guardian, right? The state is acting as a guardian for you, but you don't have any specific legal guardian. So you can have a patient can have 0 or more legal guardian. In some cases, if the patient is old enough, they become their own guardian.
Okay.
Now, going back the other way, if I have a guardian in the system, am I going to have one or more patients?
Think about parent and child, right? The parent can have one kid, or they could have multiple kids as well, right?
Multiple, yeah, many.
Right. So they can be legal guardian for many patients. Technically in the system, right? So in that case, you will have something like this, because legal guardian has to be associated with some patient information. They don't exist without patient, right? Legal guardian. So they are associated with at least one patient, or could be more. That's what the relationship is reading from here to here. Okay. Here to here, it's 0 to many. Here from legal guardian to patient, that's 1 or many. So at least one patient they belong to or associated with. Okay.
Okay. So now that we are done with this process, we have to repeat that process between the patient and, let's say, insurance. Right. So as a patient, do I have to have an insurance?
Yes. If no, then it will go to county, but
right? So I may or may not have an insurance,
Yes, yes, yes.
right?
Hmm.
So it is 0 at least, or more than 0.
Hmm.
Then the second question is, can I have more than one insurance,
Yes.
right? Because I could have a health insurance, I could have vision insurance, I could have dental insurance.
So many to.
So there is a 0 or more insurances, right?
Hmm.
And it
Yes.
could be that I have multiple types of insurance as well. Primary insurance, secondary insurance, folks do have it,
Right.
multiple insurances.
Now, going back, if I've identified an insurance specific detail with a policy number in the system, what is its relationship with the patient? Can an insurance belong to more than one patient?
No.
So
No.
if you are a family of 5 and
Yeah,
you have 3 kids as patient, don't you use the same insurance?
like if I have a insurance with my husband, then yes, we are family, right? Two
Right,
people. So yeah.
Right. So the insurance can belong to more than one patient, right?
Yes.
But it has to be associated with at least one patient, just like legal guardian. Insurance patient does not exist without a patient in the system, right? It's all about patient. So going back from insurance to patient, it has to be associated with at least one patient. Okay.
Okay.
All right. How about managing physician? Patient to managing physician. What do you guys think? Can I have more than one managing physician?
Physician.
Managing physician.
Remember,
Right.
it's a managing physician and a service coordinator.
Right.
Right. So think of it, right? How many primary care physicians you will have if you are a patient? So think about managing physician is nothing but your primary care physician.
So generally, we all have one PCP at a time,
Okay.
right?
Primary care.
So managing physician. So this
It's gonna
one
be
is
one.
fine from 1. Now managing physician, can they manage more than one patient?
Yes.
Right. So again, same rule applies here. Managing physician might be managing more than one patient into the system.
Yeah.
The same patient can have multiple patients. Okay.
Now, what about diagnosis?
It can be many diseases.
Right. So patient could have multiple diagnoses.
Yes.
These two have at least one, right? Or 0. If patient doesn't have diagnosis, then why would they are referring here
In the system,
right, into the system? So they need to have at least some diagnosis in order to be referred by managing physician. Okay. And diagnosis is now reading from other way around, diagnosis to patient. What you guys think should have?
Can
Yeah,
diagnosis exist on itself?
for one patient. I mean, for one particular patient.
Right. So it's pretty much for every patient is going to be different diagnosis, right? So diagnosis will belong to one patient only, but patient could have multiple diagnoses, and that's why they are coming for treatment here. Okay.
So if you look at it, right? So just by having that conversation, by looking into this, we pulled up 5 key entities and defined the relationship between that.
That's essentially your model. That's what is called data model. Now, as a BA, as I said, this is just a conceptual model. This is what the concept that you are putting together. But now, when the technical team takes a look, take a look at it, and they will break down it this model into further. Okay, and they will have little bit more discussion, and they will actually convert to the database design afterwards. They will
Now,
take this model. Yep.
Yeah, one additional thing as a BA that though you need to provide it is for a patient, what are the attributes, right? So you should have a conversation with the user and says, okay, can you tell me what all patient information you capture, right?
Right.
So in this case, you have a address, you have a county, you have a health department in which this patient is going to be associated. They have a birth date, social security number, sex, ethnicity, and the residence status is what they're capturing, right? So from 1 through 9 are attributes of patient. So you capture that into your story. Whenever you say, hey, I'm going to register a patient, then you say, it's okay, while you're registering it, here are the information that needs to be captured. So all the attributes for every entity that is associated in that story that you are going to perform any sort of operation, whether you're going to create it, you're going to read it, or you're going to delete it, or you're going to update it, you need to provide that information. So if you go back to example of RFlown, if you remember that particular requirements document, there were entities in there, and then there was defined what is the information and the relationship whenever they define a process between the process and entities.
Okay. All right. So that's essentially the data modeling process from BA standpoint. Okay. You will not go anything further for design or anything else. That's a completely.
That is just a model. Okay.
Yeah. Just a model, but how this model helps you, right? So you need to have this modeling exercise when you are analyzing different forms and so forth, right? And where it helps you. So if you find this information, right? This relationship here. And when you are creating a screen and your screen allows only one data entry, right? Data entry for insurance, then it will fail right there. That's the reason. Now you look at, I think you change your screen, right, Geeta? So now it allows multiple insurances to be entered
Yes.
for a patient. So this is because this relationship exists. So you need to allow for multiple data entry points, basically for insurance. Same thing. Now managing physician, you may not have that pattern applied, right? Because it's a one managing physician, which is perfectly fine. But when you are doing the legal guardian, you need to allow the same way, same like multiple legal guardians. That's a pattern that needs to be built into your screen. Diagnosis, similar way, because it's a diagnosis code. That what is a description? There might be some notes that physician entered for every diagnosis and so forth. So those data elements. But again, where do you find the data elements? You come back here and look at the form. Okay, insurance has this type, policy number, begin date, end date. It repeats for every different insurance. So all you need to do is allow this information to be entered through the screen, and so that you you keep on basically they can keep on picking different type or different type of insurance and different name of insurance. Keep on entering. Okay, so that's the pattern. That's the way. That's how you are using this model as well to come up with the screens and refine the screens. Okay, so this is the important part as a BA to link up how, that fits into the story design as well. Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys got some idea about the data model, and as a homework, you can look at the PHN. Obviously, you don't want to go to the whole PHN assessment form, right? But you want to pick out maybe first 2 pages, okay? First 2 pages and come up with the model for PHN. You will have patient PHN assessment, right? You have the assessment form, which is a pretty long form, right?
Which I did the user story for, right?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one, initial okay.
Yep. So assessment form, right? So, but you first do the data model for first 2 pages of the form. I don't want you to go through the whole form because it's just too long, right?
Okay, so
It
the
takes you a lot more time.
demographics part and okay, first 2 pages.
Yeah, first 2 pages. Yep. Do the data models just like what we did. Think through what questions you might have, and we can talk about it tomorrow. Okay. Now it's for everybody, not just for you. So Cynthia, Oliver, Vanessa, you guys need to finish the same exercise so that we can review as a group. Okay.
Okay. So we should do data model for, you said the first 2 pages.
Yeah, of the assessment form.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of like a similar to what we did. Create the relationships, see what you think the relationship is, and then we can review it.
Yeah, remember each one of you had a section of it to work through it.
Right.
When you're defining the stories.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, we just have to draw this diagram, just have to show the relationship between the entities.
All right.
And then what Dilip said,
So just draw this diagram, right? Show the entity. And then when you think about the stories, right? You need to identify which entity and what attributes you are updating it, which you should already have it in your screens, right? And then the business rules.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's how it ties together with the data model.
But about which I just created yesterday, I did it in 4 hours.
Yeah, that's fine, right? So now
Okay. So,
remember how long it took us to take the form and build the data model as a team? Less than 30 minutes, right? So that's what we want you to do it is like, it's do that data model, right? Look in your stories. Now, again, are we like, it's kind of reviewing the stories here right after this one?
okay. Then at least just tell me how because I have already created, so I will link up with this thing, right?
Right. So build data model and connected that to the stories.
Yep. And I think Dilip, we can quickly review, see what they have, and I think see whether they are on the right track or they're gonna need more time to flush out based on the stories, based on what we discussed today. So.
Yeah, and what I would just say is that if you are ready with the story, let's review the story. If they're ready with the story, then we can just do a 30-minute break for them to build a data model, and then we can review it today itself.
Yep.
Okay.
So Geeta, you wanna pull up your stories?
Yeah.
See what you revised and.
So this first one.
It's a search.
So no, this one, no, wait. This one, actually, I did not create a story for search because Pooja already did. So Harshal, you told me you don't need to, right?
Yeah.
So it is actually this add one, which was demographic. So Dilip told me like how this screen came, because it is initial clinical assessment, right? The second part.
Okay.
So this one is, as a PHN nurse, I want to add demographics for the patient so that physician can get the information to be used for BCMH program. So this is the same thing. I just did not did this scroll down thing. So I created again. So let me start from the very first.
Sure.
So this is the screen which came after that because nurses has already entered the information for the medical history for the patient, and it is not a new patient now. So the information is already in the system. So for the initial assessment, I try to create this search screen that we can add a patient name with any of these options.
Sure.
And then search.
Okay.
So it will pull up that particular screen search result.
Okay.
So like this is the particular name for that which we just search, and it has a case number also.
Okay.
So here is the form which like the information, medical information, which is already in the system.
Right.
We can pull it from here, like one by one, open, and this initial assessment form, it came from there. And now we have to add the initial clinical assessment here in this thing, right? When we open here,
Okay,
and then
so
we can
hold
add
on,
here.
hold on a
Huh.
second. Okay,
Hmm,
I
hmm,
think I see your design,
hmm,
but when you convert to the digital thing, right?
hmm.
The form name and everything goes away. Okay.
I mean, on the system.
yeah, on the system there are no forms. It's
Right, right.
everything is
I should
digital.
not say form. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
ICF, what you have MF, it's no longer there. It's just on piece of paper. Yes, that's what they are calling. But in the system,
Like there
it's
will
all
be
patient information.
something related to this particular thing.
So
where
what
we
you can do is, right, because you are trying to enter assessment here. So you can just say, select the patient record and put whatever record is displayed, and put just in front of like enter assessment, something like that, or create
So,
assessment.
can you tell me one more time? I'm sorry. So first one you said enter the.
So if you stop sharing, let me just go and share so that I can tell
Stop
you.
share. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that way, and these are common patterns as well. So right, this is what you have result wise. So these are different patients, right?
Search
In the
results.
search results, right? You have different columns here. And here, if you want to enter assessment, right, you can do it like a add assessment button.
Okay.
Okay. And this one will, when they click on it, it will open this whatever patient 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it will open this patient record and start filling out the assessment information.
But as I created, according to my screen, I created only for that one particular search, not for a lot of patients. So it will pull up one person screen, right?
Yeah, so this is the one patient ID 1, this is patient ID 2. So these are different patient records, right? In the search results. Now what you are saying is, hey, I want to add a new assessment for this patient, right? So you have to take them to some other screen. So when you click on add assessment, it will open for this patient only. The other patient will have its own add assessment. Okay, all these buttons are linked to this particular row of record or this particular patient. Okay, so that's how the systems are typically designed.
Okay.
So it will it knows it is when somebody clicks here, it knows, okay, it is for patient number 1. When somebody clicks here, it knows its patient is for patient number 2.
But when I'm clicking for one particular date of birth or one particular name, so does this screen will open with different names with a different patient's name? I mean,
no, it's the same patient.
Same patient. But
Yeah,
why
it's the same patient, right? Because you are entering assessment for the same patient, right? Why are you searching otherwise? If you are saying it's because see you need to understand the flow. So nurse logs in, the search is for a specific patient to see if what is the record, and their intent is to enter the assessment for them. So they will find the particular record and they will say, okay, add assessment, and it will open the assessment, brand new assessment page for that particular patient, and it will pull all the information
which was already in the system.
Already there in the system for that patient. So you don't need to enter the demographics again.
So
okay, because demographics is already created as part of the original medical record, because it's the same information. Why they want to repeat?
Okay.
Gotcha.
So can I go back to my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so here I have to change on this. So then I don't have to create this thing. This I have to.
You don't have to create because it's already there.
Yeah,
you just display the information at this point.
Okay.
They're not supposed to edit anything. You can just display it if you want.
Okay.
But again, that's a conversation you want to have with business. What information you want to display? Do you want to see the whole thing, demographics, or they might say, oh no, patient name, birth date, and record number might be enough for them to identify the patient, because assessment is a different screen. And at the top, they can say patient name, date of birth, and patient ID. That should be good enough.
Okay. And then these buttons were also missing in my last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is fine. You have different design, which is okay. So you added the next back, cancel, finish.
And this finish will not like it will be disabled
until the last
unless
screen?
it yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So
So you
that
need
is
to
my
identify
business
those
rule.
rules, okay?
Yeah.
So you need
That
to
is
add
my
those.
business rule.
Okay.
Yeah. Finish button should be disabled until the entire form is filled.
Okay. Let me just see the rules here. Gender field should have dropped down. So now you need to list what genders are available. Okay.
Yes.
It's a
I
drop
have to
down.
ask.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a male, female, whatever.
And then the user said that you can add then others or I mean unknown.
Right. Unknown as well. Yep. So you need to provide options, those rules in a single line for gender, right? If you create multiple rules, then it will be difficult. So I would say just create a one rule. Now you don't have to mention gender field should be drop down functionality because you are already showing on the screen. So you just mention that what values and what values will go in gender, whether it's required or not, and that should be it.
I tried to ask like step by step with the user like these particular question. That's why I mentioned like one here gender field should be dropped down and then gender field should have others as an option. So I
See,
divide step
you
by
need to
step.
understand, right? Who is the audience for the story? It's the IT people, not the business users. Okay, screens, that's what you create. That's what you want to walk through with the business.
User.
Yeah, and some rules as well if they're, but you need to document those rules for the IT folks. This now you are documenting for the IT folks. And they already know, okay, what you have on the screen. So you don't need to repeat like a drop down functionality and so forth. Yeah. It will save you time. Otherwise, stories, you will have
it
1,000
took me
stories.
long time.
Yeah, it will. Okay, but
So
any other important rules, business rules that is being calculated, anything? Yes, you know, document. I think I see their age stuff.
That age thing that you told me that age should be calculated automatically by using the DOB that when we click on the date of birth, so automatic it will enter in the age field.
Yep.
Calculate. I mean.
Yep.
So
and age is there, and yeah, I'm just looking at the required fields. Are any of the fields required? You should document them as well on the screen.
And then next button should serve save functionality as well. Like, I mean, when I will click on the next, I will go to the next screen. All the information which I captured in this area, it will be saved here. So this thing I mentioned.
Yep. No, I think it's good. I think that's the rule that should go in. Next, should save it and then take the user to the next page or next form, whatever is available. Yep.
And cancel field will end the current session and will return back on the previous.
One of the things that you may want to clarify in the cancel field is, right, is what happens if I like it's enter a few field information in it before hitting the cancel? Are they kept it? They're ignored it, right? So typically it's an understood, right, that you don't want to save any information. That's why you're canceling it, but you should explicitly spell it out here. That cancel field will discard all the information entered on this screen in the current session. We'll finish the session and go back to the previous screen.
Okay. Discard of the section. Okay.
Now, so help me understand, what is the difference between the next button and a finish button here?
So next button, because as I created, my thought was like I take all this information as a, I mean, PHN nurse, they took all the information in the system and then they go back, they go click next to enter the other information, which is okay. And
so,
then what was the question? Finish?
Finish.
Yeah, finish means when you are at the end of the form. I mean, taking all
but
the
in this
information
case, in the context of this screen, right, what will finish do?
In this very first screen, it will be disabled. It will only pop up or highlighted when we are
Why
at
even
the
then
end.
bother showing it?
Yeah, you can hide it as well. Yeah, only last screen you just show finish instead of next, because you need to hide next, right, on the last screen. So
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. It is in this case, right? The next, back, and cancel are the three functions, and you replace the next with the finish button in the last one, last screen, because every screen is unique, right? So that's something that you want to think about it as you plan through it and design it. Is you also want to say it's okay, is the button serving any purpose? Is it exclusive between the different screens? Then why do you even want to define here?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So only exception one, display error message, try again. That is, if no input is entered in text field except for the others identifying information field here, and that is
Okay.
the only message. And
So scroll it down. What happens if scroll it down the exception? You said no input. What about if do you have all of them are mandatory fields?
Yes, he needs to identify those.
Right.
What
Once
are
you
what is the-
identify those,
yeah.
right? So there are two conditions. One is they don't put anything and then try to like, let's go to the next. Should we allow, you give me an error message. Second one is what if one of the missing piece or required pieces of data is missing, then what should you do?
then again, error message.
Right, so that's the rule. But then are you gonna highlight that field? Right, but just giving error message that, hey, you are missing data may not be that helpful. So you may want to just say, it's okay, I'm gonna highlight that field, which is missing.
Okay.
And then give an error message.
Okay.
Because that will enable you as a user to clearly understand, hey, what pieces of information is going to be missing.
Okay. All right. So I think it's just a matter of flushing it out. I think what you have, right? And Geeta, I think on that, you got the idea though, right? I mean, what needs to be changed here?
I have one more,
Okay.
if you can. So this one was the adding, as a PHN nurse, I want to add history of mental health treatment info for the patient so that physician can access the info. So here, there was a lot of questions you asked me that.
Yeah, so here the screen, right? The pattern, tell me how the user will enter here. Is it like Excel type of thing?
I mean,
right. I mean, but so you need to show the text boxes for, remember the pattern that we talked about for insurance? Since this, and looking at the data model that we just saw, they need to have multiple diagnoses being entered.
Yeah, so it will add like as in type. I mentioned here as a drop down box inpatient and outpatient. So first thing, if none, then when we will click here, then this thing will not open. Okay. And if they did not mention here none, then this is the inpatient and outpatient. Here will be the all the date of treatment, diagnosis, treatment, type of treatment information. And then because I created only for one patient last time, so you can check the rules here that if none selected, which I
actually
just
scroll down to the next screen. I want to see it, what happens
so
when you add.
when you will click here add, and then this screen will pop up.
Okay.
To
So
save.
you're following the pattern. Okay.
Yeah, this thing you told me,
Yeah,
even for
so
that
here,
insurance part. Yeah.
okay, so every field needs to have a label, right? They need to be aligned on the right side. So date of treatment, right? It's a drop down field. So you need to align it with the text box. Okay, and then that needs to be a label called date of treatment. Location, again, same way.
Like you mean here should be the box?
Yeah,
Okay.
it should be on the right side. Okay, just align with the text boxes.
Okay, and this we can enter here, and one by one we can save, and it will saved on the very first screen here.
Okay, so it will add it, right? Okay, gotcha.
And then this is for the edit. Okay, for the edit, I created again. I just copy this thing, the search.
What is it? Okay, hang on.
So how I can add it? I mean, if there is already the information for the patient, I will search first for that particular thing, and this screen will pop up, and then I can add it here.
No. So everything goes from the patient, right? So patient information, patient record, right? You search previously, you go in the main search, you search for the patient. Now you need to have some way of editing on the screen, which pulls up all the patient information and shows you from there. So your design has a little bit flaw here, okay? Because you want to, your record is already open. Now you want to, you found this on the search. How do you get to this screen? That's what you are saying. So you don't need to repeat the search here.
But this is a different story. I mean, you're
know, but
related with, yeah.
but you can't display the search again.
Okay.
Search story is already there. It's already done. Otherwise, you have to build all the rules in the story,
I
which
did
is
not.
redundant
I
information.
did not.
Right.
Okay.
But here, this search, yeah, you don't need search here. Okay.
So when we will, I mean, when we have to mention this thing, it will pop up here on the very first screen in this area, or
yeah, so let me flip back to the screen, and here's what I think based on your design. Here is what I can suggest for you. Okay, if you can
okay.
stop sharing.
Okay.
Okay, so we are back on this screen here, right? So this is the assessment, right? So you open the assessment, it will show up a brand new screen. Okay. Now, I think your assessment design is the next, right? So it will, this one, add assessment or add or edit, right? This could be the existing assessment they want to add it, right? Is that what you have? I think your screen is for assessment.
Yes, for assessment. Yes.
For assessment, right? So you need to give them some way to pull the existing assessment, right? So when they do assessment, then they will go on this particular screen where it shows all the existing assessment for the patient. Okay, because there could be multiple assessment, right? Remember, assessments are done every 6 months.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so this is assessment number one. For this is all for patient number one. Okay, so it pops up another screen. Now then you can say you want to edit this particular assessment that was done on 1/1/2000, 1/1/2021, okay, 1/1/2022. Because every year every 6 months they conduct the assessment. So you will have multiple assessment for the patient. And once you do edit, then it will start back into your loop because your design is next, right? Next,
back.
So it ends up on the first screen. They click on next, go to the second screen. Now, how do you get to that particular screen, which is like a maybe 5th or 6th screen, right? You might have 50 screens, looks like, or 30 screens in your design. How many screens are there could be in a patient assessment based on number of pages that you have? It could be 30 screens, right?
Right.
So so if they're on a first screen, how do they go to the next? If they do next, that's not efficient way, right? So what you can do is you can provide all the list here, maybe a drop down or something, or put a links here for all different pages. Okay, and they say, oh, I'm on the first screen, but I want to go to the 6th screen. So
Or
they will click on the link. And
we
it will
can
take
define
them
as sections also. There are
Yeah.
section 1, 2, A, B, C, D, something like that.
No, you can put the name of the screen, right?
Okay.
This particular, what was this screen about? Patient diagnosis history, right? So you can say diagnosis history link. You can put a link and they'll click on it and it will take them directly on that particular screen to update anything new, add any new diagnosis or anything like that. Okay. So like if they want to go patient demographics, the first one will say demographics demo, and it's a read-only screen, but again, it will take them to that screen. They can always go to next, previous, right? But they can also access the screen directly by clicking the link. So they don't have to click on next every time. But this is a different pattern that you want to follow in your design to make it more usable. Okay. Now you will have a different story for this one. Okay, that's this edit, this part, you need to have a story in this case. How do I go from here to here? How do I pull up all the assessments? And from there, you did have a different story for getting onto the first screen and then to diagnosis screen and so forth. Okay, so as I said, I mean, this one could have easily 500 plus stories. Okay, your patient registration or our system could easily have 500 plus stories. Again, you are not doing all the stories, so you are focusing on this particular screen. But how, you don't create the story. Like, how do you get to that screen? But you need to have a picture in mind what you are trying to build here. Okay, because there might be multiple BAs working on the same project. So. Okay, Geeta. So looks like you might have to revise a little bit. Okay, got rid of those things and flush out a little bit further based on what we just discussed. Okay. I'm not saying this is the only approach, but you need to make it reusable. I mean, usable for the user, and give them opportunity to access the information quickly. Okay, that's the only thing.
Am I still sharing the screen with you?
No, I don't think
okay,
so.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay, so let's do one thing. Cynthia, do you have your stuff that you like to share?
Yeah.
Did you send me the information?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly pull up here. I don't have your resume. Sorry, not resume. The links and stuff here, Cynthia, in the email.
I'm typing it in here for you.
Okay.
So, did I say yeah? I have shared it.
Okay, Cynthia, I got it. But let's do one thing. I need to get to the office. So what we'll do is give me like a 10 minutes. We'll take a 10-minute break here, and we'll start back up at what time is it? 10:34.
So it's 10:34. Why don't we plan to be at 10:50?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And Harshal, I'll stay on the line. You might want to stop the recording.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'll be on the line so that when you join it back,
Let me give you the.
You can make me host.
Yeah, I can make you host. So that way we don't lose the connector here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I just made you host, Dilip. So and we'll start back up at 10. What is that?
10:50. Yeah, 15 minutes.
Okay.
15 minutes. Let's give everybody 15 minutes break.
Okay. All right, Cynthia. And meanwhile, I'll set up hopefully by then. So yep.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Bye.
All right. We'll just be on a mute for 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm back. You guys there?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So,
Let me pull up Cynthia's items.
so I don't know, Harshal, Vanessa sent me the message that I had issue with my internet connection. Can you ask the teacher to add me to the Zoom?
Let me ask to join her again. Okay, so she'll be back. Cynthia, you there?
Hey, Herschel.
Hey,
I think we are waiting on Vanessa to be back, or we can get
Cynthia.
started.
Yeah,
No, Cynthia is there, Oliver is there, Geeta is there.
Okay, I lost
Only
her
Vanessa
password.
was missing.
Username password I lost.
I have it. I'll send you.
Okay.
Send you in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, Vanessa is back. Okay. Do you want me to record it? Move back the ownership to you?
We can record it, but let me log in here.
You come on, open the door.
So dave.com.
Open the door. I'm not gonna hit you. I'm not gonna hit you. Okay. Okay.
So Cynthia, which story you want to go through it? Cynthia, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, let us do the nutrition.
Okay.
Oh, the picture did not come again.
Yeah, the picture didn't come through it.
Yeah, can you click on it and let's see?
Yeah, so you
Then I'll have
had.
to email it to. It couldn't bring the phone. I have to
So
email.
talk me through it, right? So this is the patient registration stuff. So as a PHN nurse, I want to enter my patient's nutrition information. Now, which one? So if you look at it, right, you're trying to combine two stories. You should see it separate. What are you trying to do with in this stories? The one or two?
Yeah, I am.
See, those two are two different ones, right? You're saying is one story is about entering about the patient nutrition system. And the
Yes.
second one is about patient education notes.
Yeah, then yes.
So those two are two different stories. Which one you want to do it?
I want to do the first one.
Okay, so you need to update it to make sure that everything that you define in stories is around the patient's nutrition information in the system, right? So not just the nutrition. You want to like it just talk about that all you're adding is the information on it. Okay. Then you're talking about the first name business rules, right? Not roles.
Okay, so for the
So talk me through it. Patient's first name and last name. Okay.
patient first and last name are required to add patient's diets in the system.
Okay. What about the second one? There should be 50 characters.
Yes, in order for the system to open the patient's information.
What if it's less than 50 characters?
It's supposed to be, no, if it is less than 50 characters, it comes to the exception I wrote.
So think about it, right? Let's take my name, right? If I'm a patient in the system, Dilip Patel, my first name or last name doesn't exceed 50 characters, or it's not even 50 characters. So will it not work for me?
It's supposed, let me see, the patient first and last name should be 50 characters in order for, no, I think 50 characters is too much. It should be between.
So do you mean that it should not be more than 50 characters? What exactly are you trying to do that?
More than 50 characters.
Okay. So is that what you want?
Yes, should not be more than 50 characters.
Okay.
For the system to open patient's information. Then the third business rule is?
Well, so hang on. So again, I'm still kind of a little bit lost here when you say it's not be more than 50 characters to open patient's information.
Yes.
You are not entering the first name and last name, right? You're just searching it based on first name and last name.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's you need to provide the clarity, right? That the rule is about searching, not about entering the data.
No.
See, when I read this, the things is not clear to me. And maybe it's because I don't have your image.
Yeah, the whole thing is, it's like the patient's information is already in the system. So I have to search the patient and add the patient's nutrition in the patient's information.
Yeah, so I think it's you got to clarify the properly in the business rules, right? So your language is going to be very important here. The way it reads it, that you're trying to add the first name and a last name are required to add patient's diet in the system. It doesn't tell me the searches, right? So you should put it like it's the patient's first name and last name is required to search for the patient.
No, I am adding the patient's diet. And before I can add the patient's diet, I have to open the particular patient. You know, we have so many patients in PH.
Right, I understand, right? But what is the rule number one? Is it for your searching the patient, or are you adding any information in there? That's what I'm lost.
For the rule number 1.
So this thing you're talking about, right? So you're saying that the first name and last name are required
To add
to,
patient's diet in the system.
so in what screen? Unfortunately, I don't have the screen image, so it's harder for me to understand.
Should I email it to you, Harsha? Or
Email it to Harshal, right? But
okay.
I think that let's continue the other issues, right? Well, the other aspect is check one box in each line. What are the boxes?
You know, the patient's diet. Let me send the email so that you know what I'm talking about.
So, send it to me also. It's Dilip Patel, but like it's Patel D,
Okay.
dpatel11@gmail.com.
Okay.
Okay, I'm putting the email address.
Patel.
In the chat.
Is it Harsha Patel or?
Harshal had to step out, so he will be back
Okay.
here in like 5 minutes.
So you said Patel. Can you please spell it for
I
me?
did. I did send it out in the chat box. If you look at it, I put my email address.
Okay. I have seen your, yeah, so I'm trying to send it. DP. Yeah, I have sent it to you. Oh, it says failure. Let me send it again.
Okay, do you want to, like it's in the meantime, look at the other use cases?
Is it AD? Is DP? Oh, okay.
Should be just copy and paste it from chat into your two box.
You know, from my computer, I'm doing it from my phone. That is why.
Oh.
That's why Joey has something. He's computer and you're the person.
Okay, please, I've sent it to you. Let me make a here. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't yet came through mail yet. Okay, let's continue in the meantime with the other test cases or other stories. Okay.
You want to look at different story?
Which, yeah, different story. Which story you want to look at it?
The insurance.
Insurance. The last one, the story number 4.
Yeah, and I think that one too, I have to send a picture to you since all the pictures don't come through.
Yeah. Do one thing. Are you in the system logged in?
Yes.
Just attach it as an attachment. You see it where the attachment is? Add that attachment. The image is right there. So I will be able to see it.
And when I do it, the attachments, the pictures don't come. I tried last time. Okay, let me try right now and see.
Yeah, unfortunately, without pictures, I can't see it, what you're trying to do it.
That's not good.
This is the height.
What's that my power is going? Now, I did this. No, I don't see.
It's not working for me.
Oh, transform. Are you done yet? Okay, it worked.
Yeah, it's not working. So I send it to your system. I send it through your email.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have sent
Okay, I
to
just got that.
the nutrition and one for the insurance.
Yeah. So which one is nutrition? Because the one that I got I received only one so far, which is login, and then there is a health information.
I think that one is patient insurance. And I send the nutrition one too.
Okay. So when I look at the health insurance, that's the current story, right? Okay. So you want to log in. So the first screen is the login screen. See, here's the other thing again, right? So you have multiple stories. You cannot have multiple stories. You can have only one story per story. Okay?
One story per a screen.
Per entry. So if you look at it, right, here there are 2 stories. One is you're trying to do login,
To
which
verify.
you don't need to do it, right? Because the login story, we already covered it.
Okay.
The second story is that you want to add a secondary health insurance in the system. So when I look at your screen, okay, so what you're seeing it is you have the patient's name, date of birth, or the last 4 digits of social security, and you submit it. And then once it comes in for the insurance, all you're providing is a case ID number. where are you entering the actual insurance information? Like what is my insurance policy number is, on whose name it is, who's primary. So there's none of that information. All you're doing it is, hey, you are trying to pull up. Are you trying to view it or are you trying to enter the information?
I'm trying to enter a second.
Yes. So if it is, you're trying to enter a secondary information, right? This rule number 2, insurances should be pulled up by patient's first name, last name, and a date of birth. That rule doesn't make sense. You're trying to enter it, but this one tells me you're trying to like search for that insurance information. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So where are you entering that information? So your screen is
Let me
not
see.
reflecting what you're trying to do.
Date of birth should be in the form of
Okay.
one patient.
So let's walk through it, right? So you have your screen. So here's, I'm gonna, I don't know if I can share these things to you. Okay. All right, I'm gonna share this screen also. Can you see my screen?
No, I don't see it.
Don't see it anymore?
No, I see your screen. I see where you have highlighted the insurance should be able to.
Right, but you don't see the screen about with your screenshot, the email that you had sent me?
No, I don't see it.
Okay. Probably. Okay, so you're not able to see that. So the problem you have it is,
Maybe you have to bring it up here. You know, yeah, it's still,
okay,
you have to pull the thing up and see if it will.
you send it to Harshal also? No, it's not the one. Okay, so Cynthia, let's walk through it, right? I'm looking at your first screen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You have a login information for PHN nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
first you're logging into the system.
Mm-hmm.
Once you log in it, you are like, it's kind of providing them a search screen to put the patient's name,
Mm-hmm.
date of birth,
Mm-hmm.
and social security number, right?
Yes.
Okay, first thing, you should break it down, the first name and last name, into 2 different text boxes. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then when you submit it, what are you expecting? You're expecting the patient's health insurance information to come up,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at it, right,
Mm-hmm.
what all health insurance information contains? Your screen just allows me to enter only case ID number. Okay. And when you look at the insurance information, and if I may pull the doc.
What I did was I was entering all patients' insurance information. I'm now entering primary insurance, secondary insurance, vision, and then dental insurance for the patients in the system.
I understand, right? So when I look at it, the BCMH form, right? That's what you're talking about, the medical application form, right? So when you look at the secondary insurance information, for every insurance, right, you have a policy number, a begin date, and an end date, and a carrier information, the company name. When you look at your screen, you have no room to enter any of that information,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
You have to provide all the information in order for them to capture it, right?
Okay, so just the case ID number will not pull up the
Well,
whole.
how would you do? You are entering information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how would, just by entering information for a case ID will allow you to enter all the other information. So you don't have proper screen defined.
Okay.
When you do that, you have to have all of the data, which is trying to capture it. You need to have a data field for those.
Okay.
Okay. So you don't have those things in place. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I am missing the policy, patient policy number.
Right. You're missing all of that information.
And the primary.
And then you should have a business rules around that. This is all the business rule around the search of how I'm going to reach to the patient's information. The business rule should also be about all the data that you're entering it. Okay. One of the exception that you have it, how do I know the patient's name is entered wrong? Right. So again, the rules and exceptions has to be relevant to the screen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you say it's the screen should lock after multiple types of patient's information is wrongly, how do I know whether it's the right information or wrong information? They're just giving me the policy number, right?
Mm-hmm.
I may not know whether this policy number is right or wrong. System cannot validate all those policy numbers, can they?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so the two exception, the number two is not, it has
Yeah,
not.
so you need to think about the exceptions. None of this exception, I think you still have some work to do. Okay, first understand the screen, make sure you understand the form, and then build the screen accordingly.
Okay.
Okay, so I think you have to do the rework for both this and the previous screen.
Okay, yeah.
Right, so why don't you rework on that one and then focus on, and then we can go ahead and get back into as we go through it.
Okay.
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 All right. Vanessa, do you have any stories that you want to share?
No, I'm sorry, not really. Not
Okay.
really. Since this week, I'm really sick and I didn't have time to do it. Sorry.
All right.
About that.
Okay. So why don't we do one thing? It's 11:20. I'm going to give you guys 30 minutes to build the data model based on what we talked about. Okay.
Okay.
Remember, like it's Herschel talked about for this stories, just go ahead and build the data model. So can you create the data model? Do it simple in a PowerPoint or the Google Docs or Google presentation, whichever one works for you. Go ahead and create the data model, and then we'll regroup at 11:50 to review the data model.
For the first form, I mean,
For the
this,
first,
okay.
the forms, right? The first two pages. Remember, we talk about the demographics
Assessment.
and assessment. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody clear what we need to do?
So can we draw it on a paper? And
Draw it in a paper, take a screenshot, and email it to both me and Herschel.
Okay.
If you want, Cynthia. I would recommend it as like it's, if you can, just draw it into the Google presentation on there online.
My computer is.
That's fine, Cynthia. In your case, just draw it on a piece of paper and send it a picture of it.
Okay.
You got to figure it out, your computer situation. I'm kind of still surprised why you are not able to share it in the Zoom.
I think one day we have to find time and bring it for you to see the settings. And I have to find somebody to look into it for me.
Yeah, and this is not the class specific thing, right? This is your Zoom issues.
Yeah.
It will be the same irrespective of where you go.
Mm-hmm. I have to find somebody to fix it for me.
All right. So are we good? So work on it. I'm going to stay online here. If you need it, just ping me in the chat, and then we'll regroup at 11:50 to review the data model.
On Google Drive, we have, yes,
Okay.
please. So on Harshal, I have to send, or
Just go ahead and send it to Herschel. Herschel, if you can
okay.
pull it up, the picture that she drew it on the paper.
Okay.
Yeah, please check the email.
Okay, I think, let me see. Maybe I download this one first. Okay, let me go and share my screen. Okay.
Um,
All right. Can you show the form as well? If you have that open. If not, let's talk about it first.
like
Here.
you're telling me to open?
No, it's fine. Let's talk through this one. See what
So
you have.
patient, this is clinical assessment form for patient. So patient is the first entity here.
Okay. So
And
patient is
then,
already there, right? So it's a patient is in the center. Okay.
and then second point was perceptions and history of presenting problems. So here they are discussing with their family guardian and other collateral sources about some questions about the patient, like what are the possible causes or what brought client here today, something like that for the assessment
Okay.
thing. So family and guardian, and then I mentioned collateral sources. I don't know it's correct or no, but so
Do you have form open
I
for this
can,
section? Yeah.
yeah, I
Can
can
you open
open it.
that up for these sections? So are you collecting data about perception and history of present, or you're collecting data about family and guardian?
So here in this section, let me open first so that.
Yeah.
Shared with. Let me share the screen because I last time Dilip told me where is the form, even I am not finding now again. So 1 minute, okay.
Okay.
So let me.
Yeah, you can download it.
I can easily open in my phone, but when I'm checking in the laptop, so I don't know where
I see.
it is gone. Yeah. So share.
You already have that shared, right?
I don't know. I just did it. So
No, I think
here.
you have to stop sharing then. Or no, I'm sorry. I need to.
You're sharing it, Herschel. So
Yeah. Yep.
It's fine now. Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
So it was here and shared with me
Okay.
that ICA form.
Okay,
somewhere.
just go down, scroll down. Do BA bootcamp.
Okay.
Yep.
And there is a top folder BCMH information. And you
It
should be
in the
able to see
down
that.
somewhere.
Yep. So that
Uh,
that one, I believe. No, the one about ICA
I see a
child C
child. Yeah.
184.
Assessment.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, you probably want to download so that it opens faster a little bit.
this is my office laptop. I can't download so many things. They will check
okay.
that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So here now I think you guys can see.
Yep.
So the very first part, as this is for the patient, which I mentioned. Okay. And then second part, I can't go down. It is loading, I think. Yeah, still
Yeah,
loading.
yeah, it takes a minute.
Okay, here. So perception and history of presenting problems. They are asking family and guardian
Okay.
to specify some questions like why, what brought client here today, like patient, and then what are possible causes, or
Okay.
maybe who and what area of client's life are affected by this. So they are asking the family and some other sources, I think.
Okay. So they are asking the question and they are collecting the response. So the system needs to capture all these details,
But
right?
they're asking about one patient.
Yeah,
I,
that's correct. That's
yeah,
correct.
okay.
It's a one patient only, right? Because they say
Uh,
assessment is for a patient only.
So where is
One patient.
my that screen? Where?
So if you
So
scroll down, how many things are there for this one, this section?
This
So if you
section,
scroll down, yeah.
only family guardian I mentioned
Okay.
as entity and collateral sources, and this one here, urgent needs risk assessment. They might have
Okay.
many urgent needs, right? I
Okay.
mean, at the same time.
All right.
And then I mentioned one more thing as an entity here, this history of mental health treatment. So first I mentioned
Okay.
this history of mental health treatment, then I cancel on that point. I
Right.
mentioned as an inpatient and outpatient history.
Right.
So
Right.
it
So
can be
you added
more,
a type there. Yep. Yep.
yeah.
I can see that. Okay.
So
I think
it,
I understand. So let's flip back.
and then trauma history again, one more point. And in
I
this
see.
area, history of mental health, there is a family mental health history also.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Hmm.
All right. So if you can stop sharing, I can go and
Okay.
share.
or you should be able to pull it up in the email that you sent it. Go ahead, Herschel, then you pull it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
history of mental health treatment. So that's one thing, but
inpatient,
perception
outpatient.
history of present. So your entity should say perception history of present, not the family guardian,
Okay,
right?
okay. I mentioned family guardian separate and collateral sources separate.
Oh, I see. I see. No, but it should be. It's a grouping, right? Then
It,
once you break down perception history on the screen, then you can do it a little bit differently.
so perception, okay, this will be the entity, got it.
Yeah.
So
So
is
perception
it
history
recording?
of present.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm interrupting. Is it recording?
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
Dilip
Okay.
started.
It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
recording.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
No,
Pers-
that's what I was saying. So it should entity should be perception history of
okay,
present
okay.
or
Okay.
perception history.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And then urgent needs, then trauma history and family mental health. Yeah, I just divide those two
Okay.
papers. Yeah.
Now perception history, right? So you have one-to-one cardinality or one-to-one relationship. Is that what you have, or is it one-to-many you have?
I was thinking that as they are talking about one patient with their family members, right? So one patient and family, they're gathering more information from them. I don't know how to explain you.
Yeah. So here the question and responses are given by the family member. That's what. So they are asking the question. They are interviewing the family. Hey, what about this? And their family member
Yes,
is
yes. So
responding to
they're
them.
gathering more information from them
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
different areas.
So perception history screen might include 3 questions, and they
Yes.
are collecting the response for every question from family members.
Right.
Okay. So I mean, I see it as a 1-to-1 for every question, depending again how you basically once you further look at it in the design, they might come up with a new design for that. But I think right now it seems like a 1-to-1 to me, 1-to-1 relationship. So
So
one perception history for patient, and as part of the perception history, they have 3 or 4 individual questions, and they will collect the responses for each of them.
so 1-to-1 means which sign? That which I just mentioned nearest to patient in
No,
this.
one line. Yeah,
Just
patient to, yeah, same as patient, right? So you have family guardian going back 2 lines for patient. Same thing, or 2 lines from patient to family guardian.
okay.
Yeah, instead of one-to-many. So right now what you have is a one-to-many. So instead of that, it will be 1-to-1.
Do you mind? Can you draw?
On this one.
Yeah. Because I have confusion with these signs actually. So maybe.
Okay, so
yes,
1-to-1. This is
1
what
to 1.
1-to-1
Okay. Okay.
is. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So the second one, maybe we can take this history, mental health history. So again, they are talking about one patient. This is wrong. Yeah, this is wrong. So they're talking about one patient, and they have more information about inpatient and outpatient, like location, time of treatment, diagnosis, something like that. So
So again, you just capture the conceptual model, right? When they actually design it, they will break it down further.
history
But
history
yeah,
of mental health treatment is the entity here.
so you are talking about this part, right?
I divide in two sections: history, inpatient, and then their family mental health. So I divide the
Yeah, you probably don't want to divide that. You just want to capture the section as a high level entity and work through that. So right now you have two sections, what you are saying, this one and this
But
one.
no. History of mental health is the main heading. And
Okay.
then it has two parts: inpatient, outpatient, and the second, this right side, family mental history, which I'm creating.
Oh, I see. No,
Yeah.
I think so you don't need this.
So these two parts are wrong.
Yeah,
And then
you
maybe
don't-
that
yeah.
is the entity. Okay, the so
See, the
okay.
entities are grouping of information. That's all
Okay.
you are saying. Okay.
Hmm.
When you actually go through a design process, yeah, you might break it down further, but right now all you have is a history of mental health treatment. That's all.
Okay.
Yep.
And then next part was urgent needs risk assessment. So there were a lot of information: suicidal risk, self,
Okay.
uh, like denies, ideas, plans, means something like that. So we have to click something there.
Okay.
Urgent needs for the patient, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so urgent needs a bunch of check boxes and so forth. Is that what you had?
Yes, and I think we can select multiple.
Okay.
I mean more there. Yeah.
Yeah, which is okay. So for now, it's urgent need, right? Patient has how many urgent risk assessment? It's a one assessment though, right? As part of that, they might have a bunch of information they are collecting.
So one patient and then same, which I did. I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this one would be one as well. Okay.
Hmm.
This one is one, not too many.
Okay, both one on one.
Yeah, both because it's a whole section you are collecting, saying, okay, this is now when you do design, that's where you break down further. But right now it's only urgent needs risk assessment section. That's all you need to capture.
Okay. Then trauma history was on the third page, actually, the very first. So it was, I just write down anyhow.
And trauma history, which one
It is
was
on
that?
the third page, actually. You
Okay.
said first to second, but it was on the third page.
Oh, third page. Okay.
Yeah,
And
again, it's a one patient and their history.
Their history, right? So this one is a history, right? So you might have more than one here for the history.
As
Because
diagnosis,
it's a
we
history.
did it last time. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Kind of like a similar to that.
And then one patient we are talking about here.
Yeah, yeah. It's always a one patient. It's always a single
that
patient.
is right.
Yep.
That my criteria was right in this thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, I think so. That's and so this one we said is fine. This one we said yeah, cardinality. This one was a what is the perception history, urgent need risk assessment. So yeah, 4 entities because you have 4 sections that you looked at it, and yeah. As a high level conceptual model, this is fine as a high level.
Okay.
Yep. And the developers will revise the model as they come up with the design and work through that. So they might split out into more actual tables or more entities later on. Okay. But from your BA standpoint, you are good with if you have this one and you can build your screen accordingly as a mock-up. Basically, then you should be fine.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, supporting trauma history. I think your screen already reflects that, right? Add multiple and so forth over there.
That I created for this one too, the user story.
Right. So that's the one we were talking in the morning, right? Earlier.
No, we were talking about the upper one, history of mental health treatment.
Oh, okay. History of mental health
Inpatient,
treatment.
outpatient, there we, yeah.
Right. Gotcha. So, yeah, so this one
This
would
was
be
the
something
third
similar.
one or fourth one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be very similar to that as well.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else we have, Dilip?
No, I think it's since most of the people are like it's not there, but maybe what we can do is just do a short session tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the wrapping it up, the business stuff.
We are here. My computer is off, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we were not sure whether you were there or not.
Yeah, I'm using Oliver's computer.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's Vanessa is not there, and so is Pooja. So Harshal, it's your call. You want to wrap it up? It'll just 5 minutes. The overall process overview of how everything fits in for the BA. We can do it today, or we can do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow morning if everybody is there. I think that's better.
Yeah,
we will
because
just do.
I will send the model thing, the
Yeah.
one I did. I will take the picture of it and send it to you.
Okay.
So that you can share it tomorrow morning or.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it's not, tomorrow we don't have much things to cover. It's
Right.
all if you produce anything, we will review it. So it might be a shorter session tomorrow. Okay. But I expect you guys to continue working, and we can review it tomorrow. So.
Yeah. So what I would recommend, Cynthia, for you and Oliver is update the test cases and stories that we talked about. Finish the data model. Geeta, probably you might want to update the model based on the conversation and do a couple of additional stories, and we can just review that in the morning.
Okay.
In those particular user stories, I have to added something with this data model. I mean,
No, you can just like finish up data model and then just create additional stories.
on that
I think it's
particular model.
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's at the end of the day, it's now all the practices, right? We covered all the topics.
So with all mock-up screens again on
Right.
this thing.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The more stories you write it, the better practice you will get it.
Okay.
Right. That's the key now is just getting comfortable with what you have it. So. Okay. So Arshal, I think we can wrap it up for today. And then we can do probably like it's 9 to 11 session tomorrow.
Right.
So Dilip, we should have this YouTube's or this videos access at least for some time, because I need to review from session first, which I'm not getting chance.
This we never remove the links. Now
Okay.
what we
What
do
I
is
have on my emails, like that will be
so
okay.
Right.
Generally we publish as a public for some time, and then we mark it as a unlisted, so that
But
if
not
you have a
from
link, so you will be able to watch it, not other folks. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. So these links will be there.